YLEevent.com Coaches Show is presented to you by the Hillsborough Economic Development Corporation. I'm Chase Miller. Tonight we'll hear from Peder of Hawley football as the Nuggets host Perm on Friday night right here on YLEevent.com in Hawley. Also, we'll continue with our Minnesota swing of things with John Clark Jr. and Mahnomen-Waubun football as the Thunderbirds open up the 2024 campaign on Thursday at 6 o'clock right here on YLEevent.com. Tyler, Ukestad of Northern Cass football opened up this season for the Jags with a 24-14 win at Hart River. They made the 300-plus mile trek out west. They come back home to host the Mustangs of West Fargo Sheyenne Junior Varsity on Thursday night right here on your live event. Then we'll hear from Troy Mattern of Fargo Shanley football. The Deacons have game number 2 of their season at Fargo South on Friday night against the Bruins. We'll have it for you. It's a developing theme right here on YLEevent.com. Then we'll hear from Brady Schwab of the Thompson Tommies as they welcome in the Grafton Spoilers on Thursday night for their season opener. We'll have that broadcast for you right here on your live event. We dip back into Minnesota with Pine River Backus football coach. That is Nate Fischer. And then we'll hear from back-to-back defending volleyball state champion North Dakota in Class A, West Fargo Sheyenne, as the Mustangs open up the season this weekend with the East-West Classic Crossover Classic in Bismarck. And then we'll go to Senior Spotlight with Kylan Swenson of the Kindred Vikings. Again, this is the YLEevent.com Coaches Show. Let's get right into it with Jake Berkmeyer with Peder Naatz here on your live event.
Preseason previews with R&J Sports, and we talk Hawley Nugget football with the head coach Peder Naatz. As a big dog, good to be back with you again here for another season. As we're looking forward to this season, how have things been looking here through the first handful plus of practices?
Well, we've been having a pretty decent time. The first week was little bit of a pain with all the rain and whatnot, but we were able to get some good weight room stuff in during some rain. A lot of whiteboard stuff for chalk talk and things like that. We're ahead of where we were last year as far as what our install is and how well we're running things. So that's positive. That's a positive, of course. We've got good numbers and just we're getting towards the end of week 2 here, and we're ready to get rolling.
A lot of that stuff too in the off season, where the guys familiar with the weight room and some camps and everything to get ready for this year.
Yeah, we had several kids go to camps. We got a couple kids that are looking to move on and play at the college level. And, others that are just hoping to get better so they can get some playing time for us. And I was pleasantly surprised when we came back and did our heights and weights and on our check-in day. And we're significantly bigger and stronger and heavier than I thought we would be coming in. So that kind of got my juices flowing right away. And the actual practice stuff has gone mostly pretty well. So we're pleased with where we're at. We can always get better, and that's going to be our go-to is we got to always compete, and we're trying to compete every play in practice. We're not practicing as long, so their opportunities are going to be limited. So they really got to be on top of their stuff. And so far, so good. They've done a nice job of getting prepped before practice with huddle and things like that. So we'll take it, man. We need to get this team back on the winning track and get back towards the top of our section, top of our district, the whole thing like that. I think our kids are driven and motivated. We feel maybe like it's due. We're due to turn this thing around, and the kids have really taken that on in the off season.
When you look at that roster in the last couple of years, a lot of underclassmen getting some time, maybe taking some of those lumps. Have they expressed, their desire or what their goals are for this season then after now becoming upperclassmen?
They have. They're hoping and they're expecting to be in the section championship game. And as a goal, you always want your kids to be striving to push that limit. And our kids are pushing right now. They really feel confident that they're going to be able to turn the corner and take those games where we didn't play very well and the games that we did play well and came up just a hair short, just to turn those around. And we lost 3 in a row last year in the middle of the season by a total of 5 points. So that's completely one play a game is all I needed to swing a different way. But the kids have really put in the work in the off season, and we're throwing the ball well, we're catching it, we're running it. So just got to make sure our big boys up front are able to knock some holes in the front end and get things rolling.
You talk about some of those guys being leaders as well too. From that standpoint, how have they stepped up into that role?
The four captains have done a really good job. Three of them especially have put in a ton of time in the weight room, um, and they've gotten together often this summer to throw and catch and and do all sorts of football type drills and work like that. And they're just chomping at the bit to get back. They know what they're capable of doing. They know that their potential has really not even been opened up yet. We really didn't get to catch our stride at all last year, and they're just ready to go. Noah Nelson has made a decision on college, and he has just said, you know what, I'm glad that's over with. Now I can just go out and play football. I don't have to worry about anything, no stats, no numbers, no nothing. Just play football and go win some games. So, and that kind of attitude and that leadership runs through the other captains as well, with Zach Liebach, Jack Ames, and Levi Lelm. So our leadership is there. The whole team knows that they have their own opportunities to be leaders from time to time, and when their opportunity arises, we expect them to do so.
Coming up with some scrimmage time on the calendar for you. What's the goal every year when you get to that Saturday scrimmage?
Oh, the main goal is to get out of it healthy. When you lose a kid that early, that really stinks, and it's a morale buster. So we want to get through it healthy. We need to find a really good, solid crew to run our offensive line. We really need to figure that out, and with the two teams we're playing in Mahnomen and DGF, that will definitely give us an opportunity to do that. They will certainly test our kids up front, and I would imagine hand out a few free lessons along the way as well. So that would be one thing that we really need to establish and figure some things out, and then need to work on that second wave of players, the twos, the kids that are going to have to come in after a long touchdown run, or after we've given up a long touchdown run and we've had kids chasing, and they're going to need to catch their breath so we don't have a soft spot out there when we get back on the other side and get the ball or go on to defense. So and that just means establishing some depth and figuring that kind of stuff out.
You're looking at good numbers to establish that depth?
Yeah, for the most part, we're not super deep with our options at offensive and defensive line, but the kids we do have, we feel confident that once we get a couple weeks into the season, we'll have that pretty much established and set. So we've got a ton of receivers. We've got several backs. We got three quarterbacks that can handle anything that we need to handle during a game right now. So we're in a good place. Numbers mostly. You never have enough linemen, no matter how many you have. So everybody's going to say they need more linemen. But we got what we got, and we're going to make it happen with those guys.
Game one, Perham, the Yellow Jackets there as you get ready to face them. What is it that you stress the team? Is it more important what you're doing game one, or game planning for a team so you can get off to a good start like that?
Well, I think for us this year is that we need to worry about us. We're athletic enough and we move well enough with our second level and secondary guys on defense that obviously you can't say we don't have to worry about what they do on offense, but I think our main concern is going to have to be that we control the tempo and we control the football and establish the run, use our pass game as needed, or establish the pass to get the game going. Either way, just we need to be concerned about us, and then we'll play reactive and instinctual defense and get things rolling. We know that Perham lost almost all of their offensive linemen off of last year's squad, so they've got some holes to fill. But you got a community the size of Perham, they're going to have good numbers, they're going to have good kids, and they're going to have good size. So it doesn't matter what they lost or what they got coming back, they're going to be ready to go. Jesse's doing a really nice job over there with that squad, and I don't expect them to drop off at all. And hopefully we've improved a ton since last year, and hopefully we can start showing that at the scrimmage and then obviously with game one.
Coaching staff, what are we looking at here? Any changes from last year to this year?
Uh, we don't have any changes, but we do have an addition. I suppose that's kind of a change, but we didn't swap anybody out. Aaron Haugen is going to run our offense this year, second year as our offensive coordinator. Nick Burcham is going to have our defense. Zion Smith is going to be coaching our freshmen. Plus, he's our main linebackers coach. Tim Peterson is our JV head coach, and he takes care of the defensive line and running backs position wise. And we've added Jared Sanger, who is a tech ed teacher here in Hawley. He's coming in on his second year. He spent several years coaching at several other schools, the most recent being 2 years ago at East Grand Forks. So, and he's got experience with the inside zone offense we're implemented last year, more experience than any of us do with the offensive line. So he, as a volunteer coach, he has really stepped up and embraced that role and brought a new energy and a new lease on life for our linemen. I've been with that crew for 25, 24 years. So it's good for them to see a fresh face too and get a new perspective on things. So we're excited about that a whole bunch. Nick Burcham also, he does not have a defensive position as our defensive coordinator, so he can kind of float and go from group to group and just address the things that he sees that just as passing by what he thinks he wants to change or improve on. And then same with Aaron at our offensive coordinator. He doesn't have an offensive position per se. He just covers that stuff. And, you know, that's and Aaron did say after week one, or even after the first part of week one, that yeah, this is really sweet that we don't have to have a position as well while we're coordinating on that side of the ball. And we've got two other volunteers that are really valuable to us. Travis Haugen works with our DBs, our long snappers, and our wide receivers, and just he's an assistant basketball coach for Coach Stoa, and he's and volunteers for track. He's a volunteer in football, so he's young. He has a good connection with the kids, and they like him. He likes them, and he can throw a pretty good football, like most of us older coaches can't anymore. So that helps out a lot. And Dave Ames, he's been with us for several years now too, and he's kind of a offensive and defensive line special guy. So he helps us out with those. So I'm very pleased with the staff that we have here. We're fortunate to have these guys in our school and on staff as assistant coaches, and truly blessed to have these guys as our volunteer coaches too. They've got the right mindset. They've got strong values, strong families, men of faith. It's the complete picture, and this is a good place right now.
Good to hear the experience both on the sideline and on the field, the excitement on both as well too. Hopefully leading up to a good season here for Nugget football. And Peter, thanks so much for the time. Always a pleasure to chat with you. Looking forward to seeing how you guys come out here week one.
All right, sounds good. Thanks a lot, Jake. We'll see you.
Live, work, and play here in Hillsboro, North Dakota. The Hillsboro Economic Development Committee can assist you with information and support for business and housing. Experience Hillsboro. More at 104.
We're joined by the head coach of the Mahnomen-Waubun Thunderbirds football team, John Clark Jr. is joining us here. Rays, we're coming up here week one. You've been through the first 2.5 weeks of practice, had a scrimmage in there. Coming out of that scrimmage, what's your take on your football team right now?
Well, it's going to be an interesting year, Sean, for us. I think, one positive for us from the scrimmage was we showed signs that we can do some pretty good things, but we showed some signs that we have a long ways to go and a lot of things to work on. But I think this will be a team where we will improve a lot throughout the year. So I think our finished product at the end of the year is going to look a lot different than it does at the beginning of the year. And that's always exciting, as coaches. That's the fun part, is coaching them up and finding ways to make them better. And I really think this team will improve a lot from week 1 to week 8, but also week 1 to week 2 to week 3 and so on.
I know, we talked a couple weeks back here when you were just about a week or so into it, and we talked about filling some gaps. Now, as the preseason's gone on, are you finding kids that are stepping into those roles?
Yeah, I think we're still searching for our best 11 on offense and defense, but our offensive line is going to be a work in progress, and we've had some younger kids that maybe don't have the experience that filled in at starters, and then we have some other kids that are showing signs that they're going to push those starters. So trying to build a little bit of depth there, because in small school football, one injury can be pretty devastating to your team. So we've worked hard on that, and just going back to improving is, I think our linemen, they're going to be tenacious and they're going to get after it, but knowing who to block and how to block them right now is not a strength. So once we get comfortable with our blocking schemes and what we're trying to do, I think that's when we'll see the big improvement. But yeah, we're building depth, and our backfield, I think, is going to be a strength for us on offense. We have some kids that can do different things. We've got some bruisers in the backfield, and we got some kids with some quickness, so we should have a good mix there. And it's always good to have your quarterback back. Defensively, again, still searching for the best 11, and that's going to be a fluid situation there as well, where kids may be changing positions early in the season from week to week. So trying to build depth there as well.
And we talked, you've got good numbers. So I think one of the positive things is you've got kids to kind of pick from as they progress throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, our numbers are excellent. I mean, we're getting 58 on a consistent basis, and if we get everybody there, we're a little over 60. So that's quite a luxury, and a lot of younger kids. So it works out great for practice, because we can have 2 groups of varsity kids practicing, and then we can have 2 groups of 9th, 10th grade JV kids practicing, so they don't have to go against the older kids. So we're practicing against mature bodies, and that competition is what makes you better. So we're still telling kids we're still competing for starting jobs, and you may have a starting job week 1, but you might not have it week 2. So that's what competition is what makes you successful. So, and again, that's another big reason I truly believe we'll be better, a lot better at the end of the season.
And your scrimmage here held here last weekend, you got to see some pretty good football teams with DGF and Hawley, some bigger schools. So I'm sure it was a good test and a good chance to see exactly what you have.
Oh, it was a great opportunity for us. DGF is going to be highly ranked in Class 3A. And I think they made it to the semifinals last year with a lot of kids back. Big, strong team with good quickness. So, and we did good things against them at times, and they kind of had their way with us at times too. But you see your flaws when you play good teams like that, and we certainly saw a lot of things that we need to clean up, that we need to work on. I think it really hit home to kids when we preach. You have to play your position on every play, and not try to do too much. And we saw when we got out of position just a little bit, they exploded for big yards on us. And Hawley brought a little different attack. They threw the ball quite a bit, so we got a great chance to see work on our pass defense. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised with. I thought we had pretty darn good pass coverage for the most part, and again, we had some breakdowns, but kids were able to see that and learn from that. So I think our scrimmage was a great learning tool for not only the players, but the coaches as well. So and I love scrimmaging those really good teams. We saw size that we probably won't see throughout the year. And we saw really good quickness that, we just can't duplicate in practice. So good learning lesson for us.
You open up the season here on Thursday night. You've got Benson coming to town. You saw him last year. Have you had a chance to get a look at him? Do you know anything coming into year 2 playing Benson?
Well, I know, they had kind of been on a downswing last year, and they had new coaches, young coaches, enthusiastic, and kind of changed their scheme. So it was week 1 last year. They were still trying to figure things out and how to line up and all that good stuff, the growing pains of that. And I just, scoreboard watching and talking to a few coaches, they improved a lot last year. I think they bring a lot of kids back. Got to see him. We exchanged scrimmage film, so we got to see a little bit of scrimmage. And, that first game, anything can happen. You just got to hopefully hang on to the football and try not to have too many penalties, and then just let the offense and defensive lines do their thing. So we're expecting a good test and really looking forward to it.
And you get to play him at home, which is nice. That's a long trip to Benson, so it's nice to have him at home this year.
It sure is a long trip now. I think it's like 3 hours. And last year, I just remember coming back, we hit a deer with my truck pulling our trailer. So it was a damper start to the season, Sean. So hopefully they have better travel luck than we did. But yeah, long stretch. Certainly glad to have it at home. I know Mahnomen has their open house here that night leading right up to the game. So should be a nice night, it looks like. Hopefully we'll have a bunch of fans there to cheer the boys on.
A little different here this year in Mahnomen with the construction. So I'm sure it'll be a little bit different getting into the field this year.
Yeah, for fans that are watching, it's you're going to park on the street and west of the field by the tennis courts and north by the elementary school, and there should be gates at all of those spots. So I think they're going to pretty much have a gate open on each side of the fencing, on the street. So you might have to walk a little longer, but hopefully it'll be worth it to come and enjoy a good game.
But as far as your health wise goes, has everybody stayed pretty healthy here throughout the preseason?
We've had some dings. Unfortunately, Curtis Mayer, who is he started since 9th grade. He's going to be out for the year with a knee injury, and that's tough break for the team, but even tougher break for him. A senior losing a senior year, you just hate to see that. Jacob Littlewolf is another one who had some knee issue early in our preseason camp, and we thought he was gone for the year, but now there's a chance he can come back maybe middle of the year. So, and another senior that's probably, I know he started as a 10th grader, probably played quite a bit as a freshman. So hopefully he can get back on the field. Other than that, nothing major right now. A lot of pulled muscles and sore knees and sore shoulders and things like that. So nothing that's too serious.
Well, I know we'll have the broadcast on Thursday night. It's a 6:00 start time. Looking forward to kicking the football season off. Rays, as always, appreciate the time. And we'll look forward to Thursday night.
You bet. Can't wait for the banter after the game, Sean.
As always, always fun to chat. John Clark Jr., Mahnomen-Waubun football, joining us here on our YLE Coaches Show.
Treat yourself to a great career at American Crystal Sugar Company. Team up with quality people making quality products. Full-time and year-round in a stable business. With great pay and benefits, including time off available from day one. American Crystal Sugar Company invests in you to promote your continued growth and career advancement. Grow your career, doing your best work within the world's best beet sugar company. Apply online today at AmericanCrystalCareers.com.
Growers, prepare your fields and yields against the wet conditions for 2025 and beyond with a drain tile project from Chad's Excavating out of Mayville. Drain tiling will improve and increase your yields and land values for years to come. Chad's Excavating provides free, detailed estimates, and with over 40 years of combined success, they provide professional installation and service. Call Chad today to prepare for your future and any questions that you might have. That's Chad's Excavating out of Mayville, helping farmers grow.
Joining us now, part of Northern Cass football as they open up the season 1-0 with the road victory at Heart River on Saturday. He is the head coach. That, again, is Tyler Ukestad. Tyler, always a fun opening part of the weekend. You make the long trek out west and you're able to come up with a victory. So that had made the bus ride home a little bit sweeter there. Let's just talk about game number one. What'd you see from your squad to open up the season with a 1-0 road victory as you welcome in the Mustangs of West Fargo, Sheyenne, Junior Varsity into, Hunter area coming up on Thursday night?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, anytime you can get that first win, it's great. And it's a little unique start to the season. Usually don't travel that far for a week one game. But really, really impressed with my boys and proud of the team and how they came out. It was a hot one, 95 degrees at the hottest part of the day. Started kickoff is at 1 o'clock. But I think our mental toughness was huge that game. We were a physical team, more physical than we have been in years past. And it was really good to see the boys just out there competing. It was a tough game. You travel 5 hours. It's the first week one jitters. Both teams are confident and ready to go. But it was awesome that we battled through it. We limited our mistakes on offense. We had some big plays on defense, and overall it was a really, really good week one. And most importantly, everybody's healthy after week one.
And as you go into this game now with Sheyenne JV, I'm sure a lot of people looked at the roster and the schedule going, this is an interesting dilemma, not so much because, Cheyenne's not a football powerhouse or anything of that nature, but also 3A against a 2A type of a school and a JV. So I know Fargo Oak Grove was the traveling trophy, the I-29 trophy. That's kind of the filler because they co-opted with Shanley. So you just kind of talk to us about this game and how it kind of, just came about, so to speak, for game two in the home opener.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of crazy. We won't have a Friday night game until week 3 when we play Castleton. But yeah, I mean Oak Grove, it's tough to lose them on the schedule. It was a fun rivalry game. We get to play for a trophy. But with them co-oping with Shanley, they co-opted late, so we lost that game in our season. Obviously, like we wanted to try to fill and get a game for our boys. For high school football, you're limited to a max of 9 games in the regular season, for sure, unless you make the playoffs, obviously. So I think Bryce Laxall just reached out to local area schools and see what we could do. And West Fargo, Sheyenne, thankfully they said, hey, we'll send our JV team up there on a Thursday night. It's a varsity game for us, so it's a unique experience for them, for Sheyenne, because some of those younger guys, they get to play in a night football game. So I think it's going to be a good experience for both sides.
And it's a little unique, too, from a coaching perspective. You're not really sure what to scout or what's kind of coming. I mean, you can look, obviously, at what Sheyenne does as a program, through the years with Coach Jeremy Newton there. And obviously, that's going to carry over to JV. They're not going to run a completely different offense or a completely different defense, but how much is it just really, truly focusing on what you guys do and not so much your opposition, because they haven't played a game yet, and there's really not too many times. There's not necessarily that film on junior varsity or freshman teams as you might find on varsity teams, so to speak.
Yeah, like it's not so much about trying to probably scheme against some of their players, but just kind of, again, improving what we do, like you said, taking some things from the offensive side of the ball that we saw on Saturday. What can we do to make it better? What can we work on? Same thing on the defensive side. Here's some things that we did on Saturday, and how can we improve them to make them better? And then, yeah, just getting, honestly, ready to play Thursday night and do what we do well, and making sure we keep doing those things that we do well. And so that way we're ready for our region play the next Friday against Castleton.
You mentioned what you did well, obviously, Matthew Hoppy with over 200 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns as well, when it just goes overall there. So what did you see from Matthew's play against Hart River that you hope to carry into, obviously, Thursday night, but once you do get into that region, grind of the Central Cass, Kindreds, Oaks, Lisbon, so to speak, of the world coming up later this season, Uke?
Yeah, and honestly, I thought it was a quiet 200 after the game. I didn't think he was up 200 yards, but he had 23 carries for 204 yards. That comes out to about 9 yards a carry. And our run game was working, so we just kept feeding Matthew the ball, and that's the type of athlete that you try to get him touches in either way, so he can kind of do the work himself. Give a lot of credit to our O-line. They came out and they smacked Hart River around and moved the ball, and that gave Hoppy some nice running lanes. And Hoppy has really, really good vision, and he's able to find some of those holes. Sometimes you look at your coaching staff, it's like, how did he do that? So yeah, it was definitely good to see that from Matthew Hoppy, and again, give a lot of credit to our O-line for opening up those holes for him.
And someone who got kind of thrown into the quarterback position here with Mr. Reichel, over 106 yards, 50 plus percentage in terms of completion percentage, able to get a couple of touchdowns as well. Just for his start, what did you see from the quarterback in the backfield there with Reichel?
Yeah, he was awesome. He wasn't out last year, so it was really his first year of high school ball. But just to kind of go out there and just kind of be calm, cool, collected, it was good to see, especially at that quarterback position. Tried to get his feet wet a little bit early about getting some quick game in there to get the ball out of his hands. Had some tough snaps right away on our first two drives, kind of some negative plays, but he responded well, and it was awesome to see him get his first two touchdowns, and one of them was in a big spot in the game on a 4th and 12, back corner of the end zone, threw a ball to Matthew Hoppy, and Hoppy's able to come down with it, and that was ultimately the score that sealed the deal.
As you move forward here, last non-region game before, as you kind of alluded to, before you get to that Region 1, week in, week out, Friday night kind of feel with this football team here, Tyler. What do you want to see from your team moving forward? What's a trade or two that you want to see from your club, against the Mustangs on Thursday night before you get ready for, Central Castle coming around the corner?
Just continuing playing that physical brand of football. I think that's something that we've been lacking for the past couple of years here, and it was really good to see on Saturday. But it's going to be a good test on Thursday. Obviously, Cheyenne has some really good football players. They're really really well coached, and all those kids I know are in the weight room the entire year. So they're going to be good, strong, athletic kids. How are we going to play against kids that might be a little more athletic than us? Are we going to shut down and not try as hard? Or are we going to rise to the challenge and kind of compete with those types of athletes?
When you look across a 1A, kind of interesting just in Region 1 here, Central Cass opens up against a 2A school. Kindred this weekend going down to Wahpeton, which is a 2A school. You guys are playing a version of a 3A school here the first couple of weeks. So something we don't really have said too much in the past before. What do you think about these, different classes and just kind of seeing where teams are going to be? Obviously, the landscape of football changes every couple of years, every year in North Dakota, where some teams move up, some teams move down. Cavaliers, prime example of it, 11-man last year, 9-man this year. So what do you think of these non-region matchups going up and down classes a little bit here in the middle classes?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for Castle and Kindred to play some of those schools, because as of now, that's where they're slotted in to be, is at that upper division, that 2A division. And honestly, I think they'll do really well there. So it's good that they can schedule those teams and kind of get their feet wet so they're prepared for next year. But I honestly, I would just like to see the divisions just stay the same for 2 years. I know, like with us, my first year Region 1, and then the next year we were Region 2, and then the year after we're back to Region 1, and then we had Cavalier and Mayville in for a year, and then they got bumped back down to 9-man. It would just be nice to see something that was consistent for 2 years, really evaluate after 2 years about teams that need to move up and down. I would really love to see roster size somehow get taken into account. Like my first year, I had 18 kids 9 through 12. I had to bring up 8th graders to play 11-man football. That's really hard in 11-man football. So somehow taking consideration of maybe take the average of your last 3 roster sizes, just to take that in consideration of moving up and down. I think that'd be great as well. But the Region 1's tough. And if you want to be the best, you got to play the best. So it's good that Kindred and Castle is scheduling those schools. Us being close to Fargo, we have the opportunities that we can schedule some of those JV teams if we need games. So yeah, I think it's a unique opportunity.
Final thing, you kind of maybe already hit it on the head, but take your team out of it, so to speak, or maybe even your region. I know obviously Kindred and Central Cass were in the preseason top 5 just in your region alone, but who's a town or who's a team or when someone says insert squad, go watch them if they come to your local backyard? Who's someone that you would say is a pretty good team that has a chance come October, November to, maybe make a run to that Dakota Bowl?
I think a unique team to watch is Edgeley-Ondale Column. I think the past couple of years they've been kind of down at the bottom with us in the region. I think they have a really good opportunity this year. They have a really good team, and I think that's going to be a team that might surprise a lot of people. They got some good athletes. They were young last year too, so I think they're kind of a sleeper team to watch, and that's my team to kind of see make some noise in the playoffs. That'll surprise some people.
Yeah, and they got good school colors too, kind of with that co-op a little bit, just like you guys, right?
Yes, they do. Yep, absolutely.
Thanks so much for your time. Looking forward to it. All the rest of the games this season will be on your live event for Northern Cass football. So looking forward to all the home and road games. So thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you Thursday night.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Chase.
As we continue our whip around here across the Red River Valley when it comes to high school sports, joining us now from the Fargo Shanley Deacons, part of our YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show. He is the head coach again. That is Troy Mattern with us here. And Troy, always fun to get going. I know kind of some years on the scheduling side of things, you either get going a week before or the week of Labor Day weekend. You guys had a week 0 game. You went out to Mandan. A lot of new stuff this year with the co-op with Fargo Oak Grove. A lot of new faces, obviously, that were getting opportunities to make a starting spot under Friday Night Lights. So just take us through how everything went from fall camp to maybe some different bus routes or practice schedules that you have to work out with Fargo Oak Grove to then, getting on a bus and heading to Mandan for week number 1 and how everything went from your perspective as a head coach.
Yeah, well, thanks, Chase, for having me on. And yeah, you're right. Probably the biggest thing starting with week 0, whenever you have a young football team, you benefit from having that full fall camp. And this fall camp, we literally lost the full week. So we were kind of in a rapid mode just to get ready for game 1. We had to shrink what we did scheme-wise, what we installed playbook-wise. So we had 20 new starters. So when you talk about a changeover roster, we definitely experienced it. But we're excited with the kids that we have. And when we went out to Mandan, we knew we'd have a lot of green, a lot of wide eyes, and no question that first half, it tested our patience just with the execution, the mistakes, and really once the game went along and we started to settle in, I think we were much better. And of course, the growth that you always expect as a coach is from game 1 to game 2. So we're excited to get back to work this week and see where we're at to make sure that when we go to Fargo South on Friday, that the things that we lacked on last Friday night, we get better from.
We'll have the Deacons and the Bruins to kick off your Labor Day weekend right here on YourLiveEvent.com. 7 o'clock is a scheduled opening kick from Fargo South, as Troy alluded to there. But Troy, let's talk about something a little unique this year when it comes to 3A football compared to prior years where the QRF kind of came involved. And depending on schedules, that was like the old BCS system for high school sports. This year, it's more of the traditional East versus West, where I grew up in, where the EDC top 4 teams made it, the WDA top 4 teams made it. I know there's not as many schools compared to a decade plus ago in 3A here, Troy, but how does that benefit or how does that hinder your particular team going into the season, knowing that, hey, there's 5 teams in the East. If you're on the top 4, you at least get an extra week in the postseason?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter how you do it because you just want to win every football game that you play, right? But this year will be a little bit different. Like you mentioned, we're back to the old school way. And I think what I really like about it is they actually took our conference games and they made them the last half of the season. So this first part of the season is non-conference, which when you're a young football team, it allows you to get a bunch of reps, get a bunch of kids, give them some opportunity. Yeah, you don't ever want to lose a football game, but you're going to give more kids opportunities than you probably would have in the past, because with the QRF, when we played Mandan, it mattered. When we played Bismarck High, when you play Minot High, they matter. And when I say matter, it means they don't count against the standings. So that's something that will be different. And at the end of the day, your goal is still to be home for the playoffs. So we now know that come the back half of the schedule, we got to be ready and prepared because we're going to play an East schedule that is very difficult. I think the balance in the East this year is probably more so than it's ever been in the past. And there's a lot of good football teams. There's a lot of good football players. So we're excited about the opportunity, but obviously we got to work to do to get to that point, and we'll get another good test on Friday when we play Fargo South, who's going to be in the mix at the AA level.
Yeah, you got West Fargo High, West Fargo Sheyenne. Fargo North moves up this year, and then Fargo Davies with the Deacons, as well as we alluded to here on the 3A Eastern side of things. Troy, let's talk about Fargo Oak Grove. I know there's been a lot of people probably questioning you. How's everything been going with the new co-op? How is it, learning new faces and different kids and tendencies and everything else? So before we get into some of the players, let's just start there. How has the co-op kind of, went together here? Because if you go back through the history, the Grovers and the Deacons have co-op before when it comes to, high school football. And this is just kind of a new generation after a while where both had their own respective separate programs.
Yeah, I think if you look across, like you mentioned, in a lot of our sports, we're together already. So I think for a lot of these kids and families, it's no different. It's just, the biggest thing is losing football at your school is tough. And it's the kind of the identity. But you know what? Our kids and our families have embraced it. We've embraced it. This is something everybody thinks this was an Oak Grove need. This was a need that we wanted too. I know on our end and our administration and myself personally, I pushed hard for this co-op because our goal at Shanley is we want to stay with the big schools, because that's what we play in all of our sports, so to be able to boast our roster with a few more kids, it doesn't hurt us, because we're playing against schools that are 4, 5, 6 times bigger than us. And that's not always easy when you only have maybe 10 kids a grade, 12 kids a grade, so this really does solidify our roster a little bit more. There's a lot of young talent. We got about 25 kids, 9 through 12, and a good number also in our youth program. So we're excited. It's a 4-year commitment. And then we'll evaluate it after that. But, like I said, the kids have been great. They've bought in. And again, that's where an extra fall camp week would have benefited them because, they're new to our program. They're new to our verbiage, but they're great kids and great families, and they've supported what we're doing. And right now, I think the synergy has been great. And you wouldn't know the difference between a Shanley kid or an Oak Grove kid right now.
When it comes to Deacon football, freshman, junior varsity, and varsity this season in 2024, let's talk about some of the kids. We'll start with a couple that are making impacts right away from you from Oak Grove here, Troy. Kai Zabel, Foster Lord, Brady Donenbauer. Let's just first start with Kai. I know looking at the stat sheet, had a very productive game for you guys in week 0 or week 1, however you like to call it, out in Mandan. So what is Kai brought to the team so far this season? What do you expect from, game 2 at South and throughout the rest of the year once you get into September and October?
Yeah, Kai's a dynamic athlete. And as the game slows down for him, I think that's the biggest thing early is just how fast the game is, not only for him, but the other kids too. So I think once the game slows down, he's only a sophomore. But as a sophomore, the dynamic ability that he has, we're excited with him. Great speed, great hands. He was the quarterback at Oak Grove, probably a starter since like 4th grade over there. Who knows? But he's made the adjustment well, and he's a good athlete. And then you mentioned Brady and Foster too. They're going to give us good reps too, good minutes, and they both bring strong physical bodies to the field, which we need. But I thought they both played really well on Friday night too, and they're only going to continue to get better too, as all our kids will. But like I said, we're pleased with the co-op, and I think the added dynamic that some of those kids bring is huge.
When we go from there, Mr. Kraft, with Jack here, same kind of question. How has his progression been so far from fall camp to where we are today and moving forward?
Yeah, we always knew Jake was a great athlete. His brothers went through our program. Connor had a great career here, as did Tyler. And now we're on to the third boy. And Jake, just a great athlete. I thought he played a lot of snaps on Friday, actually too many, because he's playing safety for us too. So we got to find ways to get him off the field. But offensively, he brings a very good dynamic, great hands, great route runner, very athletic kid. So we just got to find different ways to get him the ball. But yeah, we're really excited with where he's at, and he's just that multi-sport athlete that is very competitive, and he's gotten a lot stronger and bigger in the offseason, and he's ready to take those big hits that guys will take throughout a season.
The one thing that I saw and kind of maybe heard of from the first Friday Night Lights, a lot of mugginess, a lot of heat, maybe more so than what you had in fall camp. I know the game that I had, a lot of guys kind of cramping up and, taking some extra time. We even had an official that left the game for a period of time, just maybe more so because of the heat than anything else, Troy. So going into week number 1 where you kind of get put in the sauna, if you will, when you're not used to that during fall camp, how'd you see your team respond? And how does that help now going into week 2 where the temperatures look a little nicer, at least for the guys that are going to be on the turf at Fargo South on Friday night?
I'm very soft, and this was my 2nd game in my career that I wore short sleeves. So that just tells you how hot it was. For me to wear short sleeves, that takes a lot. And that just tells you the heat and the humidity and just the energy that's needed for a first game. There are a lot of tired kids. And like you said, it didn't matter if it was a coach, a ref, players, everybody was tired. But, the kids, give them credit. They overcome it. And what these kids do now in the off season to prepare themselves, I remember when we used to play, we'd go to fall camp to get into shape, right? Now they come into shape with, they come into fall camp in top shape, and these kids are, the amount of work and effort they put in to be high school athletes now is truly remarkable and phenomenal. And that's where I have great respect for all these kids, because they take care of their bodies. They're not at McDonald's and, Taco Bell at 10 o'clock at night. They're truly taking care of their nutrition and their bodies, which is really cool to see.
When you look at Fargo South, Fargo Shanley, I think you've been at now the head coach at Shanley just as long as you were the head coach at Fargo South. Troy, just taking a look at kind of some of the records over the last handful of years. Just what is South Shanley for you, experiencing what South was, experiencing now what Shanley is? What does it mean for you knowing that you still have a lot of ties, involved with both programs?
Yeah, no question. We know that a lot of that staff, and every time you go back there, you just think of the memories that, I spent 13 years there, 7 as head coach, and just the memories that happened on that field are truly remarkable. And now to have Jax on the roster, Jax was the ball boy on that field for 5, 6 years too. So that's what's really cool about it, is just the amount of memories that were created there with just remarkable people. And I have, Fargo South is a great school. Great football program, obviously, and to be a part of that for so long is pretty special. But on one given night, unfortunately, we got to put that to the side and worry about what Shanley can do. But yeah, obviously, when we go back and a lot of memories will come flooding back, no question.
Final thing for me, Troy, if someone asks you, back in my day when I was playing, or, 5 years ago or 20 years ago, where is high school football at now? Because it's easy to see in the state kids going on to play at the next level, whether it be a Valley City, Mayville, Concordia. Obviously, there's been a number of guys at NDSU, UND, a walk-on, John Gores. It sounds like he's going to have an opportunity Thursday night in Colorado from Fargo Shanley. So we see the guys moving on to next levels. Riley Sunram, a Kindred guy, going to, Power 5 Minnesota. So where is football at now, Troy, compared to maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, not just in the metro, but across the state of North Dakota that you get to see, every Friday night?
Yeah, that's a good question. But first, I want to start with Johnny Gores, because anybody that's listening to this broadcast, I want you to share this with your kids, because John Gores is 5'6" in the Bison program. That might be 2 inches taller than who he really is. But in high school, he's 5'4", maybe 5'5", 150 pounds. And like you mentioned, he's going to be on the depth chart for the North Dakota State Colorado game. But that just tells you, if you have a love for football and you have a drive, no matter what size you are, give football a chance. Because Johnny was always against, what people expected, and he just put his head down and got to work. But to your point of high school, yeah, there's a lot of good football players across the state right now. And I think the biggest thing is we're not so much just a regional, recruiting anymore. It's more national, just because, and I think the Bison have a lot to do with that, just because of the way their coaching staff has split off across the nation. They haven't forgot about what's happening in North Dakota, especially with our linemen, our big kids. And I think obviously social media and the exposure that these kids get now is second to none. So it's really changed the landscape of that. Every kid has an opportunity to play anywhere, because there's a lot of football spots to fill on rosters. So if a kid wants to play college football, there's an opportunity to play. And another public announcement too is there's good football at every college. I think you talk to these kids that, oh my gosh, I got to play at Concordia, or I got to play at Moorhead State. They show up on those campuses and they're like, oh my gosh, this is really good football. And there's good, it's college football. It's good at every level, and not many can do it. So it's exciting to see all the talent across the state having success at the next level, though.
Yeah, and you've had to go up against some offensive linemen that went to K-State, one that's going to Nebraska. So you've seen it just in the film opposition. And as you alluded to, if there's not a Bison game, UND football game going on a Saturday, it doesn't take you too far to get some quality football, around the Fargo metro area. And Troy, you're able to get both sides of it, both from the coach's side, but also the parent side, obviously. So how fun is that on the last kind of extra overtime question, if you want to call it? How much fun is that, going from, being a coach, obviously with what you've been able to do with your sons, coaching them in that respective way, but also at the same time, be in the stands, be a fan, and cheer for maybe your former athletes, former players, or guys that you had to go and coach against on Friday night. And that's now part of what your son's program is, and now their teammates know at the next level.
Yeah. Well, number one, I can't sit in the crowd because I struggle with that. But I give these parents a lot of credit, because as a coach, what's coming, you're control of the game. Then when you turn yourself to be a dad and your kid's the quarterback, it's like, geez, what's going on here? What's going through his head? What play are they calling? And it's tough being a dad, and it's a whole different set of nerves. But on the other hand, you're just, not only for my son playing college football, but all the kids that we have playing college football, I'm so proud of them, because that is, a lot of these kids, that's their goal, is to play something at the next level. And for them to live out those dreams, it's as a coach, we couldn't be more proud. And it's truly fun to connect with them, text them, but ultimately see them play on a Saturday. So yeah, we have them all across the country right now. I think Emma Kenny won the job at Stanford as their kicker. You mentioned Johnny. We got a couple up at UND with Vooch. You got Rosberg at St. Thomas, and you got Cooper at Concordia, a bunch of others at Concordia. So we definitely have a blueprint out there of Shanley football, and as a coaching staff, we're pretty proud.
And the Deacons will square off with the Bruins. We'll have it for you Friday night right here on yourliveevent.com. If not, I know some former Bruins and Deacon players are circling that to go out in person and watch it at Fargo South. Troy, as always, thanks so much for your time and best of luck throughout the rest of the 2024 season.
All right, Chase, thanks for having me on.
There's more at 104. Hillsborough, North Dakota has everything you need on your next road trip. Food, fuel, fun, and family-friendly activities. Stop by and fill up your tank or grab a bite to eat. Have a blast at Goose River Golf Club, the swimming pool, or one of our beautiful parks. There's even ice skating and cross-country skiing. Take in the sights or stay the night so you don't miss a thing. Experience Hillsborough and see why there's more at 104.
Sharing our heritage, sharing our future. Choosing the right bank for your financial needs can be challenging with the many choices available. Dakota Heritage Bank is pleased you're interested in knowing more about what they can do for you. The Dakota Heritage Bank community bank setting is a strong advantage they have over larger, less personal banks. Customers are more than account numbers, they are friends and neighbors. Working together, Dakota Heritage Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
On your live event coaches show, we're getting into week number 2 of the coaches show, and we're getting a chance to visit for the first time this year with Brady Schwab of Thompson, of course, the athletic director up there, head football coach, head boys basketball coach. And Brady, first of all, welcome back. I hope you had a good summer.
Yeah, appreciate it, James. It was good. You know, it's always a little bit quicker, you know, as you get older. But no, it was a good summer. Weather was good, and got a chance to golf a little bit and get away a little bit. So that was good.
Take us through, again, the first couple weeks of practice for football, heading into the first game tomorrow night against the Grafton Spoilers. Big question being, you got to replace your senior quarterback and Overby and some other key skill positions.
Yeah, you know, we've got 10 seniors this year, which is nice. We've got a couple kids back that weren't out last year. And, you know, we're at, you know, 49, which is a real good number for us, 9-12. So we're excited about that. And, you know, we do, you know, James, to your point, have some guys that we have to replace. And you know, that's every year. That's every team across the board. But, you know, we've been happy with the guys and how they've been getting prepared. And you know, we obviously move into a real tough Region 1 and trying to get them, you know, schooled up for that and be ready for that, you know, war of attrition that happens every Friday night.
And we'll touch more on the specifics of football in tomorrow night's pregame conversation. Again, tomorrow night, Grafton Thompson, always a good rivalry game. Catch it on yourliveevent.com. And you mentioned, Brady, the Region 1 schedule. Kind of allude to that a little bit and how that's going to change things this year.
Yeah, you know, it's just a lot more physical region when you go down to Region 1. It doesn't matter who you're matching up with. You know, they're going to be strong, they're going to be big, and they always have skill guys. You know, every team's going to run a quarterback out there that can throw it and run it, you know. So anytime you've got a dual threat quarterback back there, it makes your defensive game planning a little bit more difficult. And then, you know, when you're rolling out big bodies up front and you know, it's a 4-quarter game, you know, and the bigger and more well-conditioned you are, obviously that team has a better chance of being successful. So that's kind of what we've been trying to prepare for and get our guys ready for. And, you know, I don't know if we're quite there yet, but you know, that's how the season goes. And we have had that bye week 1. So we got a couple more practices in, yet we didn't get to hit anybody of a different color uniform last week. So that does some things for you too. So we're excited to get going here on Thursday against Grafton and you know, see how we're doing.
Some little things you're working on. What specifically do you guys need to hone in on before that first game?
Well, you know, on the offensive side, obviously, when you have a new quarterback, it's getting that person acclimated into what you want them to do. And then as you shuffle some people around in skill positions around the line, just that communication that happens that, you know, the fan doesn't see from the sideline, but is a necessity, you know, up front and between backs and linemen. So, you know, it's been some timing things. It's been getting guys to understand what they're doing on certain routes or what they're trying to accomplish when they're running a route or executing a block. And then on the defensive side, you know, just getting guys into positions that where they can play fast, and we've adjusted some guys around based on that. And we're not going to be the biggest team by any means in Region 1 and probably one of the smaller teams, but, can we still execute what we're trying to do and put kids into positions where they have a chance to be successful? And if we can do that and they succeed, we'll be in some games and then it comes down to, like it always does, fundamentals and technique and execution.
On top of what you mentioned already, when you look from this point on to the end of the season, what are you hoping to see from your guys? What are you hoping to be able to tell your guys at the end of the season?
Yeah, I think it starts with health, trying to make sure that we stay healthy and we can keep guys playing from week to week. And that's number one. And then number two, just are we improving on the speed at which we're executing things? To execute things on air, to execute things against a scout team is one thing, but can we consistently execute those things and improve as we're executing those things? If we're a 3-2 on the clock, can we get to a 2-9 on the clock? Can we get to a 2-6 on the clock? Can we get the ball out a step sooner? Can we make our break at the exact time and have the ball out on time and those types of things? And then on the defensive side, are we in the right spot sooner? Are we where we need to be? Instead of covering grass, are we covering people? Are we tackling in space? Are we getting to the football and those things? The same thing every coach is saying, but at the end of the day, getting men from 15 to 18 years old to do that is the challenge, and that's what makes it fun for us. And then hopefully along the way, like I said, we're improving on what we're trying to do, and guys stay healthy and can execute.
Coaching staff, personnel, any changes, any updates to that side of the team this year?
Yeah, we kind of have a new staff this year. We've got Trent Carlson, who's back from last year, but he's shifting into that role of defensive coordinator. And then we bring in a former player, Gavin Bowman, who just finished up playing at Mayville State. He'll work with Trent on that defensive side and with our JV. And then Ryan Obdam, who's been in our program for a number of years, will work on the offensive side with the JV. So we've got 4 guys there, a couple new junior high coaches that are excited about it. So, as is the world in coaching, it's an ever revolving door, but nonetheless, we've got 6 guys that want to be there and want to try to make these guys better.
You mentioned kind of the junior high aspect. You mentioned good numbers on the varsity kind of JV side. How are the numbers looking in the younger grades?
I think we're at 26 right now, so they're down from obviously where we want them to be. And we don't have a real large number of kids playing in the 6th grade. So, anytime you're into playing 1 junior high game as opposed to 2 junior high game, of course, that means, not as many kids are getting on the field, which is what we want them to do and they want to do. So, but the kids that we've had out and visiting with our junior high coaches are excited about it. They're ready to get going. They actually open up on Thursday as well. They'll travel to Central Valley to play HCV at 4:30, and then we'll see those guys, hopefully a lot of them, at our game at 7 o'clock at home.
Of course, the athletic director, Thompson, always a good opportunity to touch on some of the other activities and sports going on. Of course, when you think of fall sports, the 3-legged stool is finished out with volleyball and cross country. Got to think there are going to be some good seasons ahead this fall.
Yeah, cross country's up and running already. They've run some meets and volleyball was a little bit later start this year, like all the sports were. So they don't actually start until after the holiday. They'll fire up next Thursday or a week from this Thursday. And then we've got girls golf that, is about a quarter of the way through their season. And they've had a real nice season. We've got good numbers there. We've got about 15 girls that are out there. And, they've been placing in that 3rd, 4th, 5th place as a team, and with some kids shooting some real good scores. And then we co-op in the fall with Grand Forks Red River for girls swim too. So we have some student athletes that participate in that. And we've had 2 or 3 that consistently have gone to the state tournament, whether it's on a relay or as an individual. So yeah, it's a busy time of year. We had our fall student athletes in the gym the other day, and we have good numbers there, and which is what we want to see, and we've got participation from kids 7, 12, and at a school our size, the more kids that participate, the more things, the better opportunity we have to be successful.
Brady, as we get to another school year, any other reminders to fans, parents, community members, anything else you want to mention here on the Coaches Show?
No, it's kind of business as usual for us. We've got some refurbishing of our fitness center going on, which is really exciting for our student athletes, but also for our community. We have partnered with Sanford Power on that, and they're handling our strength training piece of things, which is takes something off of our coaches' plate, which is really nice. And our kids have been receptive to that. I think we had about 130 kids that participated this summer in the speed and strength. So that's a good number. And it's just we appreciate the support we get from our, the few businesses we have in town, but definitely the individuals that help make that refurbish happen. And then, of course, just your day-to-day expenses with athletics as they continue to rise. We've got a lot of patrons that continue to meet those demands. And, we try not to go to the well too much, but we definitely appreciate those people that are doing those things. So.
That's Brady Schwab, athletic director, head football coach here, at least in the fall, in Thompson. Brady, thanks for the time, and happy back to school.
Yeah, thank you, James. We appreciate everything you guys do and what all the media coverage that we get.
Live, work, and play here in Hillsboro, North Dakota. The Hillsboro Economic Development Committee can assist you with information and support for business and housing. Experience Hillsboro. More at 104.
For the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show, joining us now is Nate Fischer, second-year head coach for the Pine River Backus Tigers. Nate, thank you for some time. Welcome to the new 2024 football season.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, Devin.
Yeah, you're welcome. In your first year, the Tigers went 2-7. As always with high school teams, there's a little bit of turnaround. There's guys that have left, people that are trying to step up. You're getting ready for the opener, which is going to be this Friday night on the road at Upsala-Swanville area. Take us through what's it look like, at least roster-wise, to start for the PRB Tigers in this 2024 season.
Yeah, our roster's at a good point right now. We have one class of kids kind of coming through that's a little bit smaller class, and that'll be our seniors this year. So only 5 seniors on the roster, so plenty of open roster spots, open position battles for some of our younger guys. So still kind of in that rebuilding phase a little bit. Over the last 3 years, we've graduated some pretty big senior classes. And so, still trying to find our footing a little bit numbers-wise, but we're sitting in the low 30s right now, but as we kind of look towards the future, we should be looking in the low 40s, mid 40s in future years. So,
with a small group like that, how did your JV and the B squad, how did they fare last year? What are some of the big steps you tried to take from how they ended last year into stepping into bigger roles for this year?
Well, I think the big thing was, our JV struggled at times last year, but that was mostly because we had pulled up, some of the top talent as freshmen and sophomores had to be pulled up to varsity to help out there. And so, we were a little bit down there. I'm actually expecting a really good JV season out of our guys this year. Our 9th grade numbers are super strong, and it's super strong in the trenches, which is really fun. So a lot of really good O-line and D linemen coming up. And just because of how we're built, that group should be able to stay together this year in JV. So really looking forward to this year's JV schedule. I think a lot of our freshmen will get some good minutes down there and get a lot of experience that way. So really kind of looking forward to JV this year. And obviously some of those kids that we played as freshmen and sophomores last year, obviously now as sophomores and juniors this year, looking for them to kind of step up and take the next step forward.
With only a small handful of seniors with this team, Nate, as we're talking about the PRB Tigers football team, what have they at least shown you through these first couple of weeks getting ready for the season in terms of their leadership? How do they want to begin? How do they want to approach their senior season?
Well, those guys have played a lot of football. Eli Abraham, Earl Stockman, those 2 guys have been on varsity since they were freshmen. They've been in a lot of big moments for us, both offensively and defensively. Those are guys that we can move all around the field, and they're kind of the heartbeat of this team. Our team this year, we're going to go as they go. And so we really leaned on those 2 through the first 2 weeks to kind of be, the foundation of our team. And as we go into Upsala week here and now into our district schedule, we really look for those 2 guys to be kind of the bedrock who we're going to be day in and day out. And so really excited for them to have that opportunity. Eli has been a fullback his entire career, and last year we asked him to play O-line, and so he's now back in the backfield getting a chance to carry the rock again. So he's pretty excited about that. Earl's a great defensive end, also a great fullback, and so he'll get a chance to carry the ball some, but his value lies on the defensive line. As far as the other three seniors, Colby Walters, Mac Reddick, Dalton Myers, some of those guys have played as little as 2 years of football. Some of them have played for us for a few years, but those guys are really good role players for us. They show up every day at practice ready to work. And so really excited for their senior year. But, Eli and Earl are kind of the two guys that we're looking to be our leaders this year.
You had your scrimmage last Saturday, and again, Friday night, you start the season against the Upsala-Swanville area Patriots, who traditionally have a pretty strong club. What are the focal points this week to get these guys ready, get people in the right spots, of course, to take that field Friday night to open up the regular season?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just fundamentals and consistency. It's week one. Everybody's going to struggle week one. There's always things as a coach, as players, that you want to fix after week one. And there's some of those things you don't know about until you play a game. Obviously a scrimmage is great. We get to look at some guys, their first live contact against somebody else. But until the Friday night lights are on, it's really tough to know how kids are going to perform. And so we have an idea of kind of who our guys are going to be and where the ball's going to go. But until we get out there, and go live on Friday night, we won't, be 100% sure. But obviously I think for us, it's just getting back to fundamentals. We're going to be really good at the fundamentals. We're going to take care of the football. We're going to tackle well. We're not going to fumble. We're going to take care of the football on offense. And then, hopefully we look up the scoreboard in the fourth quarter and say, hey, we got a shot to go win this. So obviously Upsala's a great team, and they've got a heck of a history. They're good every year. They're one of those teams that they don't rebuild, they just reload. And so obviously a lot of respect for them, and hopefully we just go out there and do our part and play our game, and hopefully it works out for us on Friday.
The excitement is always super high for week one. With you now in your second year, obviously your first year, your rookie season as a coach, there's a big learning curve. What are some of the biggest steps, Nate, that you want to see you, your coaching staff, and the program overall take in year two, even with maybe some light numbers on the varsity?
Well, I think the biggest thing is we all kind of took a step back in the offseason and kind of did a really good job of looking at ourselves internally. Not only how we coach, but what we coach. We scaled back the offense quite a bit this year, just knowing who we're going to be, who our kids are. Obviously, we'd love to have 100-page playbooks. Our kids know everything inside and out, but that's just not the reality of it. And so I think as a coaching staff, we did a really good job, both offense, defense, and special teams, is what's important to us, what do we need in the playbook, trimming some things here and there to make things easier for our kids so that at the end of the day, when they get out on the field on Friday nights, they don't have to think. They're go, go, go. They can just play the game of football the way it's meant to be played. And so, one of our sayings is we want to play fast and we want to play physical. Those two things are a lot easier if you don't have to think. If you're just out there reading and reacting to what you see on the field, those things get a lot easier. And so I think as a coaching staff, we did a really nice job of kind of condensing down everything, making it easier for the kids. And I think it's led to, 2.5 weeks of really good practice here. So
with that, one last question for you, Nate Fischer, head coach for PRB football, here with us. So with those factors in mind, what would you consider a successful 2024 season for the PRB Tigers?
Well, man, you can define success a lot of different ways. Obviously, if we look back at last year, probably not the season that we, or at least myself, had envisioned when we started the year. So really want to see our program take steps in the right direction. I talked about a little bit earlier our JV program. I want to see those kids get out and get experience. I want to see those kids get out and compete each and every week on Mondays when they get a chance to play. As a varsity program, we got to be more competitive in games. Win, lose, or draw is fine, but we got to make sure that we're taking the right steps to be competitive for 4 quarters. And I don't think at times last year we did that. And so kind of the big thing we've emphasized this year is, hey, we got to be competitive for 4 quarters. We got to stay in ball games. And like I said, hopefully we look up at the scoreboard in the 4th quarter and we've got a shot to go win it. So, that kind of played out last year for us against Wadena and Walker. Looked up at the scoreboard and went, hey, 6-minute drive to go win it. And the game is ours. And so hopefully we have a few more scenarios like that this year. And, if everything comes together, I think we'll consider that a successful season.
Hey, we're looking forward to, of course, covering you and the Tigers throughout the season with the home games, especially on yourliveevent.com. Appreciate the time. Good luck, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Devin.
Nate Fischer, head football coach for the PRB Tigers, here on the YLE Coaches Show.
Hi, this is Jim, and along with Bernie, we're inviting R&J Broadcasting Incorporated listeners to join us on a tour of the Hawaiian Islands, February 22nd through March 3rd. The Big Island will be part of this trip while taking in the breathtaking views of Oahu, the Big Island, and Maui. Enjoy the perfect balance between scheduled activities mixed with personal leisure time. Visit holidayvacations.com, keyword RJ to learn more about this tour, or call 888-557-1020 for a free brochure.
Don't be fooled by that beat-up old cap. Its faded crown represents the tireless work of America's farmers and ranchers. Its sturdy brim, their dedication to providing our nation with a safe, affordable food source. So we'd like to tip our hat to them. Farmers Union Insurance, protecting those that protect America's food source.
Visit with Ryan Opdahl, your local Farmers Union Insurance agent in Hillsborough.
Joining us now from the West Fargo Cheyenne Mustangs volleyball program, she is the head coach. That is Leah Newton as they come into the season again as the defending state volleyball champs. Leah, let's just kind of start there as you go into the year. Last year, I know there was a lot of different rotations, some different faces maybe in the starting lineup. How does the Mustangs look like this season after winning your back-to-back state volleyball titles?
Well, thanks for having me. I would say how we look a little bit different from the start of last year's. We have a lot of kids coming back, and last year we're coming off of graduating 8 seniors, and so there was a lot of things to figure out throughout this season, and it was a lot of fun. We had players stepping up and really sticking with us throughout the season as we were able to come together at the right time and push through. So this year it's a little bit different. We have a lot of girls back, which is exciting, and we've seen a lot of growth and improvement from last year to this year. So I would say that's the biggest difference is the personnel we have coming back.
You know, that EDC volleyball tournament at Davies obviously stayed at the Fargo Dome. You just kind of felt like everything from a coach's perspective, you always want to talk about clicking at the right time of the season, Leah, and it definitely seemed like your team was clicking at the right time of the year. So with that experience, with what they were able to do you feel like you got a bigger target on your back now that you won back-to-back, or is it, hey, there's still going to be some new girls that are in different roles, or, hey, we understand what, defending the state championship is? How much do you talk about that with the team before the season starts here?
Well, I think all of the things you said, we think about, and, we're really early in the season, so we haven't talked and dug in a lot on everything, but we do know we do have a target on our back. We're aware of that. I think we're going to see most teams' best games coming off of the season that we've had last year. But at the same time, we also know that it's a new season. It's a different dynamic in the gym. We have to step up and work hard, and we might have some different kids contributing. We're not sure. It's a long season. We just really want to dig in and work hard and see what happens and just be prepared for everybody's best game.
When you get to this Bismarck crossover, I know there'll be one later on this season with Fargo, the same thing. You get a lot of different teams. You might see some EDC opponents as well, just depending on how the bracket, so to speak, shakes out here, Leah. But what as a coach are you looking for that kind of first round, if you will, of volleyball matches before you get early on with Red River and Fargo South in the conference openers, respectively, in mid-September?
We just want the girls to go out and play hard. That's the biggest thing, is taking what we're practicing and applying it into games and coming together as a team. Like I said, every year is different, and so we know we have to dig in. And when we go into the crossover this weekend, we just really want to give it our all, see what we can do, and see how we can play for each other. And then we'll come back and work on the things that we need to work on and continue to improve.
From there, a couple of captains. Let's start with Alexa Kaloran. I remember talking with her after the EDC championship last season. She had a big smile on her face, and obviously seeing how the team matured from August to where it was at that point in November. Just kind of what does Alexa bring back to the club this season?
She brings back leadership, experience. She's just a strong player all around, and her work ethic is amazing. She helped serve as a captain last year as a junior. And we relied on her a lot. She was one of our 6 rotation players out there. And I think the girls trust her a lot. And she really embraces that leadership role. And so for her to be back this year, we're excited for that. And she's already just blossoming as a leader again this year. And so we'll be counting on her to do that again.
Another captain for you, Maya Blado. Kind of a similar question on the volleyball court, off the volleyball court. What do you want to see from her throughout the course of this season here, Leah?
She is also stepping up in that leadership role this year. I mean, she's really taken that on. She's more vocal in practices. She's coming up with ideas. Communication is amazing. And she's also really doing a great job in the front row. She's a strong block. She brings a great offense for us in the middle. And so we're looking for her to lead our front row net attack.
When I look at the EDC volleyball rosters from a season ago that was all conference and small state, there's a lot of girls with a lot of varsity experience as seniors who are now graduated from respective programs here, Leah. So what does the EDC kind of look like from your perspective, and who might be some teams, if I take your team out of it, that have a chance to, contend for a conference title and possibly, get back to a state tournament this season?
Well, I think Shanley has a good core of players coming back, so I'd expect them to do fairly well this year. It'd be very competitive. I think also we're going to see some great competition from West Fargo. I think Horace, graduating, maybe one or two coming back with most of their core will be pretty competitive. Davies does well, and there could be some surprises in there too. It's early on, so it'll be fun to see different teams at the crossover this weekend.
For a trade or two, and you maybe already hit it on the head here for your club this season, Leah, what's a trade or two that you want people, when they watch Mustang volleyball, kind of to come away with, whether it's a win or a loss at the end of the day? What do you want people to leave the gym with when they watch your program this season?
I want them to see a great team, like an ultimate team play with great effort. I want them to leave the gym seeing like, wow, those girls really went after it, win or loss. They put it all out there. And that's what we're striving to do every game this season.
As a coach, is the early part of the season more nerve-wracking? Is it once you get to tournament time, because now everything's kind of solidified and you kind of know what you got? How does the season change for a coach here, Leah, from opening practices to the opening matches compared to what you get kind of in September, October, and November as a coach?
So we talk a lot about we want to really start figuring out things out latter part of the season. And so this early part of the season, we're exploring, we're trying different things. We're trying to figure out what works best together. And so by latter part of season is when we really want to come together and peak. And so, yeah, that's like open in the beginning and let's fight and see what we can do, and then firm things up in the latter part of the season.
Specifically for you, Leah, not so much for this year's club, just what has the last couple of years meant, just to see the success on the volleyball court? Obviously, winning championships after midnight in Bismarck is the old Cinderella story. And then you go from there to defend it back in Fargo with pretty much almost an entirely new group, as you kind of alluded to at that varsity level. Just what has the last couple of years meant to you and the coaching staff particularly?
It's been amazing. I mean, all the coaches and all the teams, they all work really hard, and you're striving for, state championships, EDC championships, and you want to have fun, of course, along the way. And so for those things to come together is just really special. And we feel really lucky. We got to do it with a special groups of girls and parents and community. And so it's just really fun to see that all come together. And it's just proud to be a part of it.
It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of volleyball if you're heading out to Bismarck with that East-West crossover. Then the Mustangs on September the 10th at Red River, and the home opener, a little late this year, just how it all started, September 12th against Fargo South. Leah, as always, thank you so much for the time. Best of luck this season with Mustang volleyball yet again here coming up in the EDC and across the state.
Thanks for having me.
It's now time every week to get to our senior spotlight, and this week we head to Kindred with Kylan Swenson here, part of our 2024-25 YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show Senior Spotlight. And Kylan, for you guys, obviously 1 versus 2 in the preseason poll to come out against Velvet Drake Anamoose with a win. Let's just kind of talk through the emotions, the expectations of week number 1. Just give us a little recap on how you think the team fared, obviously coming out on top, but how do you think the team fared overall in week number 1?
I think it was a good matchup. Velva's a good team. It was week 1, so both teams weren't playing at their best, and we both will get better.
And you got Wahpeton game number 2, you know, a team that's in double A. You guys are in A. So anything in particular you're looking forward to, whether it's yourself or as a unit going down to Wahpeton in week number 2 before you get to regional play with the Lisbon Broncos here in a couple weeks?
Yeah, it'll be a fun game. We don't really get to play at Wahpeton for football, but we have a good rivalry in baseball, so it'll be a good game.
Yeah, you got to play them in baseball, obviously basketball this past year with the 3 divisions, able to see them a little bit more. And kind of just moving forward into the season here, Kylan, what's some traits or characteristics that you've liked so far through fall camp, through practices and game 1 of this football team that you hope to carry with you, you know, into September and once you get to October?
I don't know, just the whole team is hungry to play together, and I feel like that's a good thing. The community is good too.
The one thing I know a lot of folks have probably talked to you a ton, and I'm sure you're probably sick and tired of answering some questions about it, not so much where you're heading to next, but just that injury, right? What happened last year in week 3. If someone goes through an injury, Kylan, and I know I've seen some other players over the last couple of years, whether it's a week, a month, or a season-ending injury, what would be some words of advice that you like to pass down for, you know, another player that might be in the shoes that you are in, which is going through the rehab process? What would be some words of advice that you like to pass down if someone's going through what you kind of went through last year?
I don't know, just keep going. Sometimes it can be not as good as you think, but you just got to make the best out of the situation.
Did you come back earlier than you think? I don't know if there was a lot of people talking with folks in Kindred thought that you might even be able to come back on the basketball team. Did you think you made it back a little bit earlier, or was it pretty well scheduled for what your mindset kind of was of trying to get back to the basketball side of things before you kind of got to the spring and baseball season?
Yeah, right away they said I wouldn't be able to play basketball, but I just kept working with my physical therapist and got back a little bit sooner and play a little bit.
When you get to football games or just any sport in general, Kylan, superstitious at all, or is it let's just, you know, put on the uniform and, you know, get to the game?
Yeah, I don't know. I just put on my uniform and get ready and go play.
Take us through what kind of some of your plans are potentially for next year.
I think maybe go to NSU and do like something in the egg farming.
What does it mean to kind of just be, you know, living on a farm a little bit and growing up, and what does it mean to try to maybe, you know, continue that, you know, for the next generation with the Swenson family?
Yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it a lot. It's a different thing every day, so I like it.
What's the best thing about farming that you enjoy here, Kylan?
Probably just running equipment is fun.
Is there one particular, whether it's, you know, grain cart or, you know, combine or something in between? What's the one piece of equipment you enjoy the most?
Probably the grain cart.
From their favorite subject in high school?
I don't know. Probably gym.
Gym. That's pretty good one. Is there a particular sport in gym that you like the most, or is there one particular you know, sport with that?
Probably kickball.
Kickball. When we go through this particular process here, Kylan, favorite sports memory of all time, I always like to ask, you know, in your kind of shoes as a senior, whether it's as a player, as a fan, maybe it was something you did with family or friends. What's a couple of favorite sports memories that come to mind for you?
Probably second grade, we'd always play recess football, and our coach now, he used to be a second grade teacher, but Mr. Burgett would come out and be our all-time quarterback and be able to play football with him, and now we get to play with him now, which is pretty cool.
Were you catching touchdowns from Eric, or were you picking him off there, Kylan?
I'm not really sure. Probably a little bit of both.
Let's talk about Eric Burgett a little bit. Obviously, Matt Crane last year goes to Bismarck. Eric steps in as a head football coach, and I know he's been with the program for quite some time. What have you learned most under Eric Burgett so far that you'd like to take with you, so to speak, outside of the football field and after, you know, Friday nights?
He's just always prepared. He's always watching film, and I just kind of look up to him that he's always ready.
For you, Kylan, what does it mean just to be a Kindred Viking? I know going through what happened last year, but also you've been able to play a lot of varsity minutes and other sports before the injury. Now, obviously coming back from that, even in the spring, what does it just mean for you to be a Kindred Viking?
It means a lot because the community is always so supportive, and everybody else in the sport is always competitive and wanting the same goal.
Was the injury for you, Kylan, as much of it was obviously physical and time, how much was it mental? If someone goes through an injury the very first time, and something that was severe as it was for you, would you tell someone be ready more for the mental challenges, or is it more the rehab and the physical part that was more challenging for you?
Probably the mental side of it, because I just wanted to go out and do stuff, but I couldn't because I couldn't do anything, which is really hard. And I don't know.
From another standpoint, video games, books, what's something you like to do, movies, just to kind of hang out and maybe, get away, so to speak? What's something that kind of relaxes you a little bit?
I don't know, just going out in the tractor and working.
And from that standpoint, sounds like someone that grows up on the farm, there's always something to be done. From that standpoint, Kylan, what do you enjoy most about Friday Night Lights? What's something that kind of gets you ready to go once you kind of get to that opening kickoff and hear that first whistle?
Yeah, just the atmosphere is always cool. I don't know, just having the community around you and going out there and play with your buddies.
If I could go back to your own 14-year-old self or 13-year-old self, what would be some words of advice that you like to pass down for that middle school kid that's chomping at the bit to be, on the varsity football team, or that freshman that, wants an opportunity to suit up with a JV or varsity? What would be some words of advice that you would like to pass down for that next generation coming up?
I don't know, just like Mr. Burghead says, run with your head on fire and do that.
That's a pretty good way to do that. Do you kind of take those words to heart a little bit, run around with your head on fire? Do you feel like that, Kylan, when you're on the football field, kind of running around out there?
Yeah, I try to.
Kylan, thanks so much for your time. I know I've talked to a lot of people, and they're definitely supporting you out there in Kindred. Best of luck week number 2 in Wahpeton, then when you host the Lisbon Broncos coming up around the corner.
Thanks. Yeah.
That wraps up this week's edition of the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show. Make sure you join us every Wednesday night. We'll have one for you again a week from tonight, that is, right after Labor Day weekend, starting at 7 o'clock for all the latest prep sports going on in Minnesota and North Dakota. And for more high school sports, go to YourLiveEvent.com to find a game, kickoff, or first serve time near you. On behalf of everybody here at Your Live Event, I'm Chase Miller. Thanks so much again. Again, the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show is presented to you by the Hillsborough Economic Development Corporation.